Okay, here we go. The next project we're going to be doing is this table, little table. It's about a foot tall, 14 by 14. So this project's got 9 pieces pretty much, 4 legs, 4 rails, and a top. This is the project that you're going to start to kind of venture on your own more in the shop. I'm going to get you going and then make sure you're safe in all the tools, but make sure that you're going to make the correct project too. So anyway, the first step in this is going to make the legs. So the legs are going to be the first step here. To do that, we need to measure them. So I'm going to measure this leg right here. The length is going to be 11 1/4 finished. Well, that's the finished number. We want to make a rough cut first. And we know that the joiner and planer can't take a board less than 12 inches. And this is 11 1/4. So we want to make this a little bit bigger. So we're going to go for, in this case, 14, just so we have enough wood to run through the joiner and the planer safely. In addition to that, we have to, every year is going to be different. This year is kind of unique because of the pandemic we're having, but this piece of wood here is a little bit ragged. It could be considered some to be firewood. We're gonna make lemonade out of lemons here. Got big splits in there, got big giant cracks in there. It's not straight at all. If you look at it this way, it's crooked like a dog's leg. And so this is the worst case scenario. Your year might be different, but in this case, what I'm going to do is chop this board down into 14-inch segments. So every line I have here is about 14 inches apart from each other. Is it exact? No, but it's a few inches bigger than we need, so it doesn't need to be exact. Now, this is going to be a crosscut operation, so when you think of crosscut, you should start thinking about the chop saw, but in this case, we're not going to use a chop saw, and give you a second to think about it. Why aren't we going to use a chop saw? Because the chop saw needs a flat surface. Is that a flat board? No, it's not. So I'm gonna make these cuts for you for the first time. I don't want you using this machine quite yet. This is called a skill saw. I'm gonna have you draw the lines on the board, and then I'm gonna cut them to size. But I'll show you how to set the saw up anyway, just so you have a basic idea of how it works. So the skill saw is kind of like think of it like a little mini handheld table saw. Some people in this class may have used this at their house. Anyway, what we're going to do is adjust the depth. Remember the depth on the table saw? We adjusted the blade up and down. Well, this one, the table goes up and down. So we're going to raise and lower the table. Hold the guard back a little bit there. Just like you would on a table saw. I'm going to get it so it's about a pencil width thicker or deeper than the cut of the width of the board there, so it cuts all the way through, but not too far through. Lock that down. So a camera person would be nice right now. Right there. Just a little bit below the surface of the wood. Now, you'll see a lot of people make cuts like this. Or grab it with one hand and just make a cut. We're not going to do that here. One of the things you always learn about using a skill saw is never cut it between 2 surfaces. So if you're going to cut like this and you make a cut, what's going to happen to that board? It's going to fall down, it's going to pinch the blade, buck the saw back at you. So you want to make sure that the piece of wood that you're cutting, the offcut has enough room to fall on the ground and not pinch the blade. So what we're going to do is take some clamps here, and I'm going to clamp it to the table, make a couple cuts, readjust, make a couple cuts, readjust, and then do the next step. Again, this is like, the chances are the board that you're going to get are going to be a little bit better than what I'm working with here, but I thought I'd make the most of it to show you how to do this stuff. All right, so I'm going to have two hands on the saw again. I'm going to be doing this, but I want to show you my thought process on doing this. So blade stops. We got all our boards cut to 14 inches here. And so how are we gonna make 1.5 by 1.5 legs out of boards that are so thin? Well, we gotta glue them together. So to do that, we are going to first rip them down. We want them 2 inches finished. I'm sorry, we want them 1.5 finished. So we're gonna go 2 inches rough. So we want to go 2 inches rough all the way down here. Now, the first thought would probably use a table saw, rip them down to 2 inches. Remember, a rip cut is with the grain. But I'm going to give you a second to think about why we can't do that in the table saw. Did you think to yourself, because it's a rough piece of wood and the table saw needs a flat surface? Then you're correct. So we need to make sure that we're going to rip these safely. To do that, we're going to use the bandsaw. Okay, I have this scrap piece of wood floating around that's 2 inches wide this way. What I'm going to do is use that scrap wood and just give me a way, so I don't have to measure every time. So I'm just going to hold it against this edge right here and then draw a line like this. And then move it over, draw another line, and just keep marching down. So that gives me a bunch of 2 inches lines to follow. So I'm not having to waste time at the saw making all my lines. So that's what it looks like. So we have a bunch of lines there, all 2 inches apart from each other. I'll do it to all the boards, and I'll go to the bandsaw and cut them. Before I go to the bandsaw, I have them all marked out. I wanted to make sure I have enough, so my thinking is make them a little bit over 1.5 inches. I'm sorry, a little bit over 1/2 inch thick. They need to be 1.5 inches. So if you have 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch, that's 3 boards per leg. And I want a little extra, so I'm doing 4 boards per leg because I'm not too optimistic that this stuff's going to be the best. So I want to have a little extra to work with. So we'll meet you at the bandsaw. Okay, back at the bandsaw, we'll just make a bunch of cuts. And we're using the bandsaw because the table saw, it wouldn't be flat, or the board's not flat, so. like that. I'll finish the rest off camera. Okay, we're all done making those cuts on the bandsaw. So, I probably have too much, but what I got is 4 pieces of wood per leg. I'm hoping to get by with 3, but in this case, 4. Some of them are kind of questionable as far as how straight and flat they're going to be. This one here has a big knot in it. There we are. So we see like something like this might not work, pun intended. So the knot is right here. A knot again is from a branch coming out of the main tree and getting cut. So we have the end grain of the board there, which is kind of hard to work with. So I'll see you in the next video.